them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. While last year saw a number of changes to help people improve their lives, the problems of homelessness and substance abuse continue. There are hard challenges to face. However, there are organizations out there trying to make a difference, including the Benilde Hall. In 2021, Benilde served 489 clients and provided 26,803 bed nights. It was founded by Godfrey Kobetz, who stressed the importance of creating mutual respect and understanding between residents and staff. And joining us today on KC Cares is the director of Benilde Hall, Ken Vick, goes by Ken, and he knows personally what clients have experienced. Ken has spent more than 21 years in recovery himself, and we want to welcome you to KC Cares. Thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you.
And I should say you're executive director. I don't want to leave off that most important, adjective there.
It's just the title. The team does the work. So, yeah.
Diving in, tell us a little bit about Benilde Hall, and I want to know where that name comes from.
So Benilde Hall, we're actually coming up on 30 years. In 23, we will be in business for 30 years. Unfortunately, the best kept secret in Kansas City. Most people don't know about us, but the name comes from Saint Benilde, who was actually the saint of like the downtrodden and the homeless and stuff like that. And so it comes from a Saint Benilde background. A faith-based background, which works well for me, but it's really kind of cool. We've been around this long and we've evolved with the years to where we're not just treatment or not just transitional housing anymore. It's not just about housing guys. It's about offering them licensed counselors, case management, peer specialists. It's a holistic approach to helping them put their feet on the ground. And we just continue to grow and try and help our community.
Well, can we go back to the roots of the organization? How did this even start?
Godfrey Kobetz basically wanted to set up and actually start helping people. A lot of times we think about the homeless and the people that were struggling in today's, because we see people with the flying signs and everything, and it's a hot topic. But we've had this problem in Kansas City for a long time, and we've had substance use disorder problems for a long time, and there weren't any real, say, healthy places where people could go live and actually feel like somebody listens to them, somebody cares about them. There are places you can go where you can live and stay sober and everything, but Benilde was designed to make somebody feel welcome, make them feel like they are still, humans, unconditional positive regard, and welcome them in, because that's where growth starts, when you have that feeling of safety. And Godfrey Kobetz started it because of that, wanting people to feel safe and included.
Now, did you know him by chance?
I did not. I was not blessed with that. I've met some of his family at some events and stuff. And we do have I have therapy goats, and one of my goats are named after him. So his name is Godfrey. So.
Oh, what's just so interesting that an individual would have that kind of motivation to say, here are problems. I want to help fix them, but I want to fix them in a different way. Is that kind of what you have found with your organization? You've been there for a little bit.
Absolutely. Godfrey brought in the executive directors, Toby, and then Linus, who was here for a long time, and then my predecessor, Billy Kent Jewell. He goes by Kent. And watching the evolution of what we do has really been incredible. Linus set a really good foundation. And then Kent came in and he brought in more treatment to connect with it as well. And then when his health went down, they brought me in, and we've been able to expand it even more. We're actually in the middle of a expansion now, but the idea really is different than what you're going to see in Kansas City. Actually, in most places across the United States, because we really do focus on somebody feeling safe. We're not judging them for mistakes or anything. We're truly treating the disease of substance use disorder, behavioral health disorders, without a punishment-based style, which you won't find in a lot of different places. A lot of places want to punish people when they make mistakes. Well, I'd be in even more trouble if they continued to do that to me. So the evolution of Benilde and the things that we do, I think, should be replicated even more, just because we have such a good success rate and it makes a difference.
Well, you mentioned something that I think a number of nonprofits have to deal with, and that's growth and expansion, but doing it in a way that it works. What can you share from your experience? How do you make something like that work?
First, it has to be sustainable. So it has to be something that you can continue to do and can repeat in action. But what we do, I mean, when it really comes down to it, the first thing you do is show people that you care, show the guys that we serve that we care about them and that they're part of our family, our community. And that will make them more successful. Well, the more successful they are, the more successful outcomes I get to show, which makes the whole program more sustainable. And when people feel safe and comfortable, they can actually open up. They can be themselves without fear of retaliation or anything. And when I get to show people, funders or expansion or anything like that, when I get to show people, hey, this is why it works because of the care we actually show, it's hard not to buy into it and actually help support us as far as trying to help us grow.
So I hear you saying, whatever your mission is, deliver that mission and make sure you count, that you record in whatever way so that you can then show those folks who support you, and hopefully people you want to support you who may not know about you will understand what you're doing.
Yeah, I think reporting is so important. I learned this early in my career in this field. If it isn't written, it didn't happen type of statement. And so you've got to do a lot of reporting, a lot of tracking and all that stuff. At the same instance, I don't want to track it to exploit the guys that we serve. So I'm tracking numbers. Yes, I have names and all that stuff, but nobody gets to see that besides, specific things. It's tracking the numbers that are so important so you can truly see the outcomes and have it validated. So
how do you balance, helping these individuals and, very meaningful stories? How does your organization kind of deal with that? Gee, I want to share Fred's story, but Fred needs to be protected. Where do you find that balance?
We talk to the guys a lot, obviously the therapeutic community, the feeling that we have here. And we'll get like media releases and stuff and let the guys talk if they want to. We don't sit there and say, hey, you've got to do this. And we're not going to walk through a room and just video or take pictures of everybody in there. It has to be people that want to be involved in it. And that may be part of their recovery plan is, recovering out loud is what I like to say. Let people see what recovery looks like. And so we talk to them, and it's the ones that want to be vocal, the ones that want to be engaged and give back to the community and actually help people understand. Because a lot of times when people are really stuck in that old lifestyle, they don't even have that hope or faith belief that recovery is possible. So sometimes when we're talking to people, that giving back is just part of their recovery.
I want to reverse now. I really want to dig into what you all do. And you come from a very personal place to the work that you do. Would you mind sharing any of that so that we have that knowledge and understanding?
Absolutely. I think I spent over 20 years with a severe substance use disorder. I did not even realize that the underlying part was trauma, the PTSD, until I actually got in this profession. And so I spent over 20 years in that lifestyle. And at this point in time, I'm actually coming up on 22 years in February in recovery. And I actually started my recovery in federal prison. And I was actually blessed. Most people look at me funny when I say that, but I was actually blessed by going to prison because at that point, I had decided I needed to do something different. And I started focusing on changing my life and this and that. And I started realizing that it was me that had to change it, that the system wasn't the problem. Is the system flawed? Sure, but I know how to work within it and so on and so forth. I had been in jail a bunch of times before, and that never really worked. This last time with the feds, I went through an RDAP program, residential drug program. It was 9 months long while I was incarcerated, and it changed my life on the way I look at things. I use today, I have all my books in my office right now from then, which was 21 years ago. Um, and I use that to actually help the guys that we're with here, because I've been through it on a couple of different phases. And there are times that treatment was part of the activation of trauma because it was hard. It wasn't welcoming. It didn't make people feel safe. And so my recovery allows me to really look at how we're building this recovery, this community. And then, of course, you hire the right team, you bring the right people in, and it all makes it better. But because of my own recovery, I think it's foundational and it's personal on how much I want to help people not live the life I lived or get out of it. And it's also personal because I love Kansas City. This is our community, and it's about how can I help our community. It's not always just Benilde. It's not just the guys. It's we're we're a special community in Kansas City, and I want to help that.
Well, congratulations to you on your recovery. As you
Yes.
mentioned, you are not recovered,
Nope.
but recovery. Can you explain that a little bit for those of us who've not had to go through that?
If you think about it, it's kind of like, if you think about a cancer, or say if you have diabetes or anything, you can put it in remission. You can do things to keep it out of the way, but it's always kind of going to be there. So I am always going to be in recovery, meaning I'm always going to be working on things. There are things that activate urges within me, even with all these years later. I don't want to use substances, but there are things that activate me naturally because of the way my brain was restructured. And so, do I feel real comfortable I'm not going to ever get high again? Absolutely. Am I still always working forward on dealing with my depression and my PTSD and things like that? Yeah, that's going to be a daily event for the rest of my life. So I'm always going to be in recovery. Sometimes people mistake recovery and abstinence. Don't get me wrong, I've been abstinent because that's part of my recovery. But some people mistake recovery just for not using, and they forget depression, anxiety, trauma, different things like that. For me, I'm in recovery from all of them. And now it's like some of the biggest thing I have to deal with, they're like anger issues and things like that. They should give me my own lane on the highway type of a person.
Tell us about the folks that you're working with and how they get to you.
We have a lot of really good relationships here on site. Right now, at this point, I have 108 beds on site. We also have two other sites, 12 permanent apartments, and then another aftercare house with 6 more. But on site, we have 108 beds. Before July, I should actually add 16 more beds, but 53 of those beds are strictly for homeless veterans without a house per se. And they come straight through the Kansas City VA. There are also different options. We have options to bring them in because we have liaisons from the VA that come on site. And so some people that don't want to jump through the hoops of the VA themselves can come here, and then they meet with the liaison, and the liaison helps them out. And then we have the other beds that work a lot with, like Rediscover Crisis Center. We have a wonderful relationship with them, trying to expand some of what we do with them. We work with hospital diversion. We do a lot of reentry with like first call and different things. And we work very closely with probation and parole and DOC to try and help people put their feet back on the ground when they're getting out as well. So there's a lot of different organizations that refer to us, but people can also walk off the street and come in. Unfortunately, we have a waiting list because I need more beds. The waiting list normally about 2 weeks or so, but we'll have people just call us. They'll go to our website and send us an email. And we will always immediately try and respond, make sure that we do a pre-screen and see who we can bring in, how quick we can bring people in, and continue to help as fast as we can.
Now, once this homeless person, unhoused individual, many of whom are vets, once they start with Benilde, can you walk us through what their experience is like?
It really kind of depends on the program they're in. We have 3 different programs with the VA as far as our veterans. We actually have the Safe Haven program, which is a harm reduction program, which means we don't focus on abstinence or anything. They can still use, not on property, but they can still use and everything. And our goal there is just keep them safe. They're going to come in. We're going to keep them safe. We have an RN on staff, and our goal is safety and housing. And that's all we do down there. Then we have other ones that are treatment. So if they come in, say the treatment side of Benilde Hall, they're going to come in, they'll do their intake. We'll do assessments and set treatment plans and recovery goals and things like that. Then they will be assigned a counselor, a case manager. We have a peer specialist that works with everybody. And they will get assigned a room, and we will welcome into the family. Basically, then they will work with their counselor to decide how many groups do they need. We do a very person-centered program. Everybody that walks in the door doesn't need the same thing. And so when they walk in the door, it's like, well, this person already has a job, and all they need is a little bit of help restabilizing and then, finding a place. So this person doesn't need to attend as many groups as, say, somebody who's been homeless for 3 years or in a substance use disorder that's really destroyed part of their life for even longer, or dealing with trauma. I have a trauma specialist on site too. And so it's going to be really person-centered and unique for each person that walks in. There are some variables that they will work out, the counselor and them. It's not, we don't set all of the guidelines. I want them to be part of it, because as soon as somebody buys in and they're part of it, they're more likely to actually move forward.
I think that's huge. Sometimes I wonder if organizations totally understand that it's great to lift up and help someone, but you got to have buy-in just with anything, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can sit there and tell you all day long what you need to do to recover and change your life. But unless you tell yourself, you're not going to change. Just like I had so many people telling me in my recovery back into the 80s, telling me what I needed to do. And it never really took hold until I told me. And so, yeah, there are a lot of programs out there that says, well, just do this. Okay, but that doesn't work for this person. And so, yeah, there has to be buy-in, because somebody has to feel like, hey, there's actually a chance for change. And if they don't buy in, they're probably going to return to the lifestyle that they were in before.
Right. We're talking with Ken Vick with Benilde Hall, great organization working to house the homeless and those with substance abuse. Now, do your clients, your residents, do they have to be challenged by both of those huge issues, or can one just be unhoused and you step in, or just have substance abuse?
The criteria is supposed to be houseless and substance use disorder, behavioral health disorder, however. But there are different times where it looks different, because some people take the statement of houseless a little bit different. Okay, houseless can also mean in the imminent risk of losing a place, meaning at any instant somebody could kick you out or something like that. And so there are different criteria to where we can do a few different things. We have some leeway. I don't have to follow super strict guidelines with that, but we're going to focus on houseless and behavior health as the main focus for almost everybody.
So you just weren't going to crack one nut, you were going to crack both of them. That's quite an undertaking to do. You have a waiting list, but I was kind of surprised it was only about 2 or 3 weeks. Kudos to your staff. Wow. How do you make that happen?
I have the best team in the world. I have been blessed with where I work, always being able to build a really good team. And it starts with my directors. Aaron is a great clinical director, and Jen down at the Safe Haven program, and Tanya. But we have a whole team here approach that really makes a difference. The way we work together, the way we care for each other as a team. This isn't, us against them. This is the entire team which includes the guys that live here, working to improve our community, improve lives, and so on and so forth. We also have a good mix of people that work for us that are in recovery, and then some that aren't, because you can't just go strictly recovery based, because then you miss some stuff. And I also have, I think, 5 or 6 guys that work for me that have actually graduated the program. And so that's another benefit to it, because they can actually help somebody see what it's like to go through the program and succeed.
They become your ambassadors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you said it's not really cookie cutter. It isn't come in here for these 3 weeks and you'll have somewhere to live and you've got your substance abuse under control. So when you say someone graduates, what does that look like? And what does that mean?
The way we actually rate success is if somebody leaves abstinent, housed, with income. So we look at the 3 things. And we have a 70% success rate on that. So 70% of the gentlemen that come through our program leave with those 3 things. But one person will do it in 3 months. The next person will do it in a year and a half. They can stay here for up to 2 years. We don't have any criteria. It's not a time-based program, meaning you go in for a 28-day treatment program or anything like that. This is as long as they need. Statistics show with the different stuff that I track, the longer they're here, the less likely they're going to repeat their behaviors from the past. So if they're here 3 to 6 months, which is optimal, then the recidivism rate is much lower.
This can't be inexpensive. So how do you manage, the physical plant which you're adding to?
Kansas City actually has a lot of really good resources. Obviously 3 contracts with the VA helps out. Jackson County Combat is a huge funder, and they help us so much. The Kansas City Greater Coalition Foundation, there's several of them. Health Forward is another big one. But we work with a whole lot of grants. We have minimal service fees that the guys pay after they get income. I don't charge anybody anything unless they have income, and I don't backdate either. So some programs will bring you in, they get a job 30 days later and they're already 30 days behind. We don't do that. Everything comes from when they start working, which is actually a very small amount of what comes in. And then we're trying to raise more funds with donations and through the philanthropic aspects. But like I started out earlier, we're one of the best kept secrets in Kansas City. People don't even know who we are. So,
well, we're trying to uncover that so everybody will know who you are. You said you do work with a lot of grants. Does that keep you up at night, knowing that that's the funding source?
It does in a way, but in the same instance, every single time that I'm involved with writing a grant or anything, it may be a year-long grant, but if I don't see a way that it's sustainable afterwards, then that's not a grant I really want to go after. Because I don't want to have this one thing go on for 12 months and then just be like, okay, well, we're done now. What I want to do is write the grants, know they're sustainable, which makes me sleep better because I know one way or another, it's still going to be there. I also have a lot of faith that if you do good work and you show good numbers, people will buy into it.
Well, I'm going to come and take a grant writing class from you then, because you've certainly met with success.
We have been blessed.
What would you say has been the greatest challenge over the last few years? Of course, there's the pandemic, but what have you found leading this organization, have been the greatest challenges, and how have you met them?
A lot of the challenges that we ran into, obviously COVID and all that stuff, has challenged the ability to how we bring people in, where they're getting referred from, and so on and so forth. We never closed. Our job didn't stop when COVID came, so we stayed open the whole time. But it was, how do you set up, say, a quarantine room so if somebody gets COVID, we can keep them safe and all the different things, which of course then limits the number of people that I can bring in because I have to have one room set for that. That was definitely a problem. for quite a while. Plus, a lot of other agencies had their case managers and stuff like that working from home. And it's hard to do case management from home. There's some stuff to be done, but when somebody is working from home, that normally puts a bigger workload on my team to pick up some of the pieces and carry people around and whatnot. It just trying to make sure that we kept people safe and following CDC guidelines and things like that. Plus, not being able to get out and talk to people.
Yeah. This is a great medium. We love it. We're able to visit with people all over the place. They don't have to travel, but there are limits. You don't have that personal connection in the same way. And as you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, that's so much about what you all are about is, that one-on-one. So having emerged from this, I guess, what's your takeaway? How do you move forward? What did you learn?
I've learned that it's going to be a little bit of a different world. A lot of stuff is going to happen over Zoom, internet, stuff like this. And it is wonderful because what it does is actually expand our ability to reach more people. It's kind of a drawback of there's a little less personal touch sometimes. There's something about being said about, actually seeing people and talking to them and everything. But
we can keep connected. That's what I think we all learned is, can you imagine having had the pandemic before computers? Oh my gosh, we might have all gone crazy, but we wouldn't have had the knowledge of having computers. So I guess we would have learned, right?
It was interesting because before all of this, I was still doing some Zoom classes and training for the state. I teach ethics and peer specialists and stuff, and we were doing some. But then, of course, everything hits and it explodes. So I had the blessing of still having a little bit of knowledge beforehand. But what we've learned since then has just been incredible. So
we've just got a couple of minutes left. I wanted you to kind of reflect on how you personally have grown leading an organization that helps the unhoused and those dealing with substance abuse, having the experience of at least substance abuse yourself.
I think it's just amazing. Where I've grown is I've kind of been program based before, and what I've discovered is Kansas City is such a loving community. Where for my own recovery, it made me feel really good when I started realizing how many people care and the different things and how we can have a bigger impact. Part of what I've learned as the executive director is to get out and talk to people outside of my field and help them understand, what recovery looks like. What we can do different. And people are open to it now. It's like if anything happened within COVID is people started to understand the need for mental health care and the different things like that a little bit more. Those actually help my personal recovery because I get to see people that care. I get to see where we can make a bigger difference, a bigger impact. It did shift my focus a little bit because I went from the clinical side to the executive side. But it's still a huge blessing because now what I get to do more is focus on trying to bring all of Kansas City together to actually break down some of these silos and do a better job of helping each other.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. If you want to check out Benilde Hall, you can go to their website at www.benilde.org. You can learn about all the great stuff they're doing, how you can help become involved, or if it's a resource for you. So thank you so much, Ken, for spending time with us.
Thank you. It is definitely a pleasure to see a Chiefs fan in this wonderful time to be a Chiefs fan. And also what you do. Casey Cares brings out a lot of stories that a lot of people wouldn't hear if it wasn't for you. So thank you. It's a pleasure.
You bet. And thank you all for joining us for Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by the nonprofit Charitable Communications. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation at www.kaufman.org. Now, if you'd like to be a guest or you want to help underwrite what we do, please visit our website, caseycaresonline.org. Well, you know what? Spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio and on Instagram at Casey Cares Online. And don't forget, you can catch us Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Thanks for joining us on Casey Cares.